All this.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. I'd like to call this informal meeting of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Good morning. Thank you. Supervisor Hickman.
Here.
Supervisor Gates.
Here.
Supervisor Galvin.
Here.
Supervisor Gallardo.
Here.
Chairman Sellers.
Here. Okay, item number 1 is Maricopa County Permit Center update. Darcy Kober, Assistant County Manager, will take over from here. Good morning.
All right, good morning. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you'll actually hear later this morning from a couple of our task forces that we've had some recommendations on some streamlining and development improvements that we can do in our flood control and McDOT departments. A lot of those recommendations will center on something that we are referring to as Permit Center, which is a new system that we're bringing online this summer for our permitting departments. And so we thought it might be a good opportunity to go ahead and give you just an update on that project. It's been a large project, and it's coming to fruition here soon. We'll be pushing out in mid-April some communication to all of our stakeholders, and so we thought it would be a good time to go ahead and introduce it here. The departments that are impacted are those that do large amounts of permitting, environmental services, planning and development, and then transportation and flood. You might notice that air quality is not here, and that's because in 2019, right as we were getting ready to kind of embark on this process, air quality actually brought on a new online system called Impact, and it's working really well for them. And so they were not included in this project. Oops. But they will be included in the website and integrated into the website as they are today. So some of our, we specifically selected Permit Center for several reasons. The benefits are to the citizens and the employees both. Some of those benefits include extensive GIS capabilities and integration, collaborative plan review capabilities, expanded payment functionality for citizens, informative dashboards, and also a decision engine, which is a tool that uses informational tiles to guide users to correct application types based on what they select during the application process. This is a mock-up of what the website will look like. It still could change a little bit since we're not live yet. But what you'll see there is the integration with the air quality department as it is today. So you can still click there and apply for air quality permits. And then you'll also have the other functionality then where you can apply for a permit. You can actually pay your permit fees here. You can pay an invoice. You can also open a complaint, kind of a one-stop shop for all your permitting needs. Oops. This is an example of a landing page. And here you can see kind of what it looks like for the permit process. And I apologize, the type's a little bit small. But this is an example. Some of the neat features on this page are that you can see the status of your application. You can see you can also request inspections from this page. You can pay your invoice from this page. You can see what percent of the way you are through the plan review process. And then you can also see in red there are things that maybe you need to do, things where there's still a review outstanding or a review needs action on the customer's part. And then it'll also have that staff-facing side, which will let our staff know when those reviews are on their end and need to be moved forward. So it's a really nice way. Currently, these types of features are either not easy to get to or they're not in a consolidated place. And so this is a great improvement for both the public-facing and the staff-facing sides. One of the other features that our customers really want is a shopping cart, and we're excited about the shopping cart. So not only will you be able to pay your invoices online in a more streamlined manner, you'll be able to pay more than one invoice at a time, which may sound like a small thing, but for customers like our solar permits, where they might bring in stacks of solar permits and they have to manage each of those and then pay each of those individually, or a grocery store who may have 5 or 6 different permits, one for a bakery, one for a retail section. Each of those happen one at a time right now. And so now you'll be able to add those permits and manage kind of your whole portfolio of plan review at one time, add those into a cart, and then make payments a lot faster and a lot easier. Another feature is that they'll be able to log in. Right now, you kind of have to be associated with that permit and have some information on it. It's going to be easier that you can actually log in if you have an invoice number and make a payment, even if you're not associated with the permit. So if your accounting person isn't necessarily your permitting or your inspections person, they'll still be able to pretty easily log in and pay an invoice. This is our project schedule, which, as you can see, has been since August of 22. And the project is on schedule and actually on budget. And so with a large project like this, especially with 4 separate departments involved that are currently in 4 separate databases, to be on schedule and on budget, and we're actually ahead of schedule. So is a really wonderful thing, and that's attributed to the wonderful staff that we've had associated with this project. We've had a really great relationship with the vendor. We've also had staff that have really, really put in the work to make sure that this stayed on time. And so this slide actually says that we're scheduled to go live on the 24th of June, but we recently moved that up by a week, and we're actually looking to launch on June 17th, which is pretty exciting, if all goes well. We'll have some final dates in August as we get to the final stages of this, where we'll firm up those dates. But as of right now, it's looking like we're about a week ahead of schedule. As we roll out in April, mid-April, we'll start rolling out communications to our stakeholders, explaining what the features of the new systems. We'll start providing some training modules as we go along so that the public can start to get up to speed on the new system and get comfortable with it. And then certainly we'll be staffed to answer questions and make sure that we can help people move over to the new system. But I think they'll find that it's really user-friendly. Most of our customers are really excited about this system, and so are we. So I wanted to thank today. I have several staff in the audience. I won't name them all off, but I just wanted to thank ITC, which is the group that has taken this on to help us launch it. Patty Sullivan is our project manager, and she is actually in user acceptance training today, so she couldn't be here today, along with several other staff that have been our subject matter experts, as well as procurement, who really did a wonderful job helping us stay on track with this project. And OET has been a really good partner, too. So I just want to thank all the staff. They're in the thick of it right now with user acceptance and data conversion. They're putting in some long hours right now, but I just wanted to say thank you to them. Any questions?
Well, I just want to say thank you, and certainly this has been a priority for all of us to see these processes streamlined and improved, and what a great job. So thank you. Questions, comments from the board?
No, Mr. Chairman, I just want to echo what you said. This is phenomenal, and I think this just shows that Maricopa County is always constantly moving forward, adapting, improving, updating, and I really like when you said at the beginning that this is going to be good for employees and citizens on both sides. So people who interact with the county are going to have a much easier system to work through, and obviously the people that work here, it's going to make their jobs easier as well. And this is all about efficiency and improvement. So thank you. Great job to your team.
Thank you. Appreciate the board's support of this project.
Yeah, Supervisor Gates.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, would echo the comments that were made. Great work. This is, we've really made a commitment as a board here the past few years to become a digital county, and I think this is a great improvement in that direction. Can you talk about the communications? Because this is a wonderful thing, but if no one knows about it, it's not going to do us much good. So can you talk about how you're going to get this out to folks in industry and elsewhere in the community?
For sure. So we'll be doing, reaching out to professional organizations like the home builders and others. We'll ask them to include it in their communications and their newsletters, as well as communications with anyone that has a current permit with us or has even recently done any permitting with us. So we've created distribution lists for all of that. We'll have a website that communicates those changes where they can also sign up for those updates. So as we go along and we roll this out, they can get those updates and also all the training modules as well. And so, and then we'll also continue to put it out in department newsletters to all of their stakeholders. And so we're trying to blanket it pretty widely so that folks know that it's coming and that they can easily transition over. We're planning on having very little cutover time from the old system to the new system. And so our goal is actually we're going to take the old one down on Thursday evening, and we are hoping to go live on Monday morning, which is a pretty aggressive schedule for a project this size. But our staff are willing and the vendor's been willing to put the time in with us to do that over the weekend. And so we're hopeful it'll have very little impact to our day-to-day business.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Hickman.
Darcy, please not only thank your staff, but also I appreciate the business community as they worked with you guys on this. And that's a sense of volunteerism that you find here. For the last 10 years, we've talked about things like this. Oh, somebody's behind the permit, then, or whose fault and everything. This is just a wonderful thing for our staff, actually, to be able to even look at and reflect back quickly to get quick answers to the developers or the home builders or people looking for permits. So I just want to thank you. Number two, I knew we were already pretty good at this because I have this little community called Wickenburg that has the Yavapai Maricopa County line. And quite often when I go and speak up there, I always ask the developers, the home builders, how's Maricopa County doing in relation to Yavapai? And quite often, sorry Yavapai, but they say, we love building in Maricopa County. You guys have always been responsive. This is just another example of moving quickly and working well for the people that pay taxes here. So thank you for you and your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy, and thank you to all your staff. What great news. Okay, our next agenda item is recommendations from the Ad Hoc Task Force for the Maricopa County Department of Transportation on process improvement. Jesse, we're good news.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Manager Pekorski, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity for us to present here today. I'll be giving a brief overview of the topic, but Josh Robertson with Hildegard Wilson and Michael Lanata with Lennar will be providing the bulk of the presentation. So again, in an effort to streamline our processes, our procedures, this task force was formed with that intent. How do we better work through improving those processes and making the department better with this aspect? So two subcommittees were formed. Is it clicker? There you go. Two subcommittees were formed to identify really those ways to enhance those opportunities, the communications and standards and the permitting and inspections. It was based on comments and feedback from the initial kickoff meeting of July 20th that I believe at the time the Chairman Hickman was there for our kickoff. We had, and I believe Supervisor Gates, I think you attended also. Yeah, Galvin, sorry, my apologies.
We look alike, it's okay.
No. I'm trying to remember. It's July of almost a year ago, so I'm trying to remember. I think you called in. One of you called in. So my apologies there.
The only one that matters is who was actually there.
Okay,
all right.
There we go. Yeah, okay, yeah, there he is. There we go. So there was 17 stakeholders representing engineers, builders, attorneys, utilities, and industry associations. And they participated in 13 meetings overall from July to November 23rd. And 36 recommendations came from this task force. And I'm happy to report that 20 of those recommendations have already been implemented. Really, I want to thank the subcommittee chairs, the participants who were part of this entire program, and staff. As we all know, change is difficult, and staff was really embraced this opportunity. The tables really switched as a regulatory component of our work. We're often checking and making sure that the work, the design is being done, and we're providing that professional criticism. The tables a little bit turned, and we had to listen to what we could do better, and staff really embraced that. So thanks to all the team members that really made that happen. But especially I want to thank Andy Linton. So he did a fantastic job of keeping us on task. His professionalism, his demeanor, the ability for him to facilitate these meetings was exceptional. And I can't thank him enough. Even to just this last Friday, he was still checking in with us, making sure that our scripts were done. He sat us down and made sure that we got it right. And he is just really a cornerstone of this process, and I can't thank him enough for everything he did. But with that, we'll move on and get into the presentation.
Thank you, Jesse. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just want to thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Josh Robinson, Hilgart Wilson. I served as the chair of the Communications and Standards Committee, subcommittee, as Jesse just mentioned a minute ago. Our group explored the opportunities to enhance communication as well as standards and find practical approaches to the application standards. Today, you'll hear 19 recommendations for the board's consideration. Starting with number 1 on the list, this is an ongoing opportunity, I should say. The first, looking to explore a mechanism to allow the developers and builders to pay into a pro rata share of infrastructure improvements, such as traffic signals. This will allow the improvements to be built at a later date, and currently today there isn't a mechanism for this to occur, and it's somewhat of an issue when you have new development coming in, and especially traffic signals, because you know how expensive they can be, and down the road, you may be constructing just a quarter of that section, but there needs to be some sort of mechanism in place. So that's what we're looking for here. And currently, we do have staff working with the attorney's office as well to evaluate existing policies and to identify changes necessary for developers to pay their pro rata share of the infrastructure without initiating a capital improvement project, excuse me. Those tend to expire, I believe, after 5 years. And so by just having some sort of mechanism in place, it kind of just provides that almost in perpetuity. As I mentioned a minute ago, McDOT has already assembled a working group and has been, I think, ongoingly working with MCAO, and they are expecting to share their findings later this year in the fall, I believe. Number 2, looking for improvements as it relates to annexations and de-annexations. Just mainly a more consistent and efficient approach. Our recommendation is for McDOT to continue to pursue intergovernmental agreements. There are currently 4 in place, one with Buckeye, Gilbert, Goodyear, and Glendale. And we have found that they are all working very well. As other agreements are finalized, they will be made accessible to customers on the McDOT website that Darcy just presented briefly a minute ago. Number 3, at-risk submittals. This has been something that the builders and developers have been looking for the potential to pursue for many years. And this recommendation will allow reviewers to identify when construction documents, when construction documents can be submitted prior to the traffic study being approved. To date, the traffic study needs to come in, approved by staff, approval noticed, and then construction documents can follow. By allowing it to come in and run parallel with the review of the traffic study, it'll allow for builders and our developers to continue on the design schedules and meet expectations, as well as adhere to what other municipalities are doing as well. Number 4, quarterly meetings. This task force has provided a great forum for dialogue on design standards, standard corrections, and responsibilities of engineer of record. We are recommending a creation of a quarterly standards and details meeting to foster continued engagement with McDOT. We've also recommended increasing engagement with the Home Builders Association of Arizona. Number 5, the website. I mean, you guys just got a brief presentation on the website as well. we're extremely pleased to hear as well that Maricopa County is launching a new permitting software. Sounds like it's coming later in June this year, called Permit Center. Our subcommittee made several recommendations regarding features we would like to see in the new system, such as having a single hub where projects can be viewed and tracked, providing workflow notifications to multiple contacts, and have a user-friendly tool for payments to multiple departments and for multiple projects. We've also recommended customer-focused training and focus groups to be held prior to the launch. Number 6, microtrenching. Microtrenching is a method used for installing fiber. It's becoming more and more common, as you see around the valley. It's fairly subtle, yet they implement the microtrenching into existing infrastructure. That can be a little disruptive at times. So Maricopa County is incorporating that into their standards that is specific to just microtrenching. That should allow the industry to perform this work in a more cost-effective, efficient manner.
Yeah, and I'll just mention that I have gone out and looked at microtrenching operations. Really results in much less disruption, much less of a problem in repairing the pavement. It looks like it could be a real advantage for us.
And I believe those standards, Jesse, you're looking to implement sometime in next year's rollout of the manual, I believe.
Yes, we expect those standards to be submitted for final approval for the January. All righty.
Excellent. All right, number 7. The next 3 topics are going to center around time and time management. Number 7, we're recommending specific goals be created and shared with the stakeholders for the various stages of review, from administrative review to first to second. That will just allow clear expectations with the stakeholders that they can then share with their clients as well, and just set realistic expectations. Number 8, our subcommittee made 3 recommendations to improve the clarity of signing and striping as it relates to comments. By doing so, we should be able to reduce the amount of time, effort of the reviews and submittals required to achieve approval. Those included providing redline copies with each of the written comments, as well as code and design standards associated with each of the written comments. And then also just identifying the repeat comments or if it's new. Number 9. Lastly, we recommend staff be required to offer a meeting with customers if a third review were to pursue. This would just allow us to get face-to-face time with the review staff as well, and just have a conversation with them, which should benefit the project in its entirety, and also just eliminate the amount of time invested into it. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I just wanted to say thank you again, and Jesse and Andy, I wanted to thank you and just let you know that the 2 of them have been fantastic to work with over the last few months, and greatly appreciate the opportunity to do this. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this, standards of communication aspect of it, and I'm going to turn it over to Michael Lanata, where he'll go ahead and present the permitting and inspections component.
Before we move on, any questions or comments from the board on any of this? Okay, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Michael Lanata. Is this on?
Yes.
With Lennar Homes. And I was the one who chaired the permit inspection subcommittee. Just wanted to comment that I've been at this like 40 years now and been on a number of these with Phoenix, Gilbert, Pinell County, and I've not seen a situation where the county drilled down to such a level that they did and the number of meetings that we had, it wasn't finite. If we needed more meetings, we held more meetings. If it was something that we handled by an email, they were really efficient with saying, let's skip the next meeting or something. So I too would like to thank Andy Litton, Jason Makovitz, Jesse Gutierrez for guiding us through this process, to Supervisor Hickman, who helped kick off the meeting, the first meeting, and I believe helped set the tone that the county was open to change. And again, my experience, I've not seen anybody drill down to this level of detail, which was really, really super cool with us and all of the stakeholders. The first item that we discussed was basically a reasonable amount of staff went on county walks. Sometimes there were challenges to schedule a walk, and that was because the lead inspector had to get X amount of people to go on these walks, and 3 would probably work. We had as many as 6. Sometimes it was because of a training thing, but I think what I think this would do is shorten that time period. So if I call today, it's not 3 weeks out in order to get X amount of people together. The second meeting was, the second item had to do with focusing on deficiencies from prior inspection. So if you will, we might find 20 items on a walkthrough, and what would happen is we'd fix them, the next walkthrough would occur, and instead of just focusing on those 20 items and anything that the inspector saw from a health and safety issue, it seemed like it was a brand new inspection. And we could have one street where there were no items, but then all of a sudden the second inspection, it could be usually the same lead inspector, but someone who's assisting him might start to find stuff. So this I liken this to a frame inspection where you got 5 items. Usually the building official walks in and just checks to make sure that those 5 items are done. And I think that this will help kind of lessen the inspection time as well. The method where we do or do not flood streets for an inspection, again, that kind of ties into the previous one. We might have 20 streets in a subdivision, and we may not have any issues with 2 or 3 streets, and there just didn't seem a need to flood those streets. And flooding the streets is basically testing for making sure water is draining properly. But that's going to help us as well. Especially, we just got hit with a curveball with Liberty Utilities, who said they're not going to allow any construction hydrant meters from May to September. So you can imagine if I've got something in their area, I'm trucking water in from some other municipality or some other water company in order to get things done. So little things like that's going to help a lot. So in item 4, sorry, I got ahead of myself here. Item 4 dealt with creating a list of standard repair protocols. The current method is we walk our community and it might say replace this panel of concrete. Well, we do that so many times over and over again, but we still have to say how we're going to do it and get that protocol approved before we can even implement the repairs. So there'll be a standard list that they've already started working on, which will kind of help us jump right on some of these things early on so that we don't get bogged down with waiting to, I think it was Tracy and it's somebody else now at the county, that we won't get bogged down with waiting on how to do something that we do just on a regular basis. Issue 5, to evaluate the need for the engineer of record to be physically present to verify certain tasks. And that's something that's being worked on. And the issue there was an engineer of record, so long as the subgrade might be tested on concrete and proper concrete tests are taken, you have an EOR that basically has to stand over it and stand there for an hour or so while something's being done. And this is just going to focus on lessening the amount of times that they need to come out. Item 6, creative flexibility with the time frame of correction. And they work with us unofficially, but this will help kind of formalize it. And what's happening is we might walk a community and usually you get 45 days in which to repair things. What this will allow us to do is get more time, because sometimes our contractors are 50, 60 days out with all the work that's happening in the valley, especially back in the days when we had some concrete supply chain issues and stuff. They weren't as efficient, so that's going to help immensely. The item 7, I think, is one of the bigger ones, and you know, I've got a community that went a few years before we could even get it into the warranty period, and part of this is the rewalks and the subsequent rewalk. And granted, if we break it, we need to fix it. Not an issue there and stuff, but it was just sort of dragging on a little bit, and it lengthened the time to even get into that 1-year warranty period, and this will help on that. Item 8 has to do with multiple bonds, and just real briefly, if I have a $5 million project, we put one bond in for that. There wasn't a mechanism to reduce the bond if certain things were done, and a good example would be landscaping, sewer and water, walls, things that the county doesn't maintain afterwards because they're basically private or HOA maintained. So what our plan is, let's get one bond in for basically the McDOT items, concrete and paving, and then a separate bond for sewer, water, walls, et cetera. So after we walk this community and everything looks fine, we can basically exonerate one of those bonds, and it will just help all of the builders and developers not have those outstanding dollar amounts in bonds. So we're really looking forward to that as well. Item 9, whoops, click too fast. Item 9 had to do with tolerance levels for ADA ramps, and there was just all kinds of intricacies as far as what would need to be repaired, what would not need to be repaired, and we're still working through this. I know Jesse is going to notify his staff about certain recommendations. We actually changed the way we do a handicap ramp. It was a process improvement thing, which is going to help avoid a lot of this, but there's a lot of communities that had already been built that still need to be walked, and this is going to be helpful. And then item 10, recommending identifying opportunities to shorten review times. And this is going to tie back to one of the previous items as far as the number of items that come up on a county walk. So sorry, my clicker, I was a little quick on it, but Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to share those thoughts with you, and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board on this section?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, first of all, Josh and Michael, thank you so much for your heavy involvement. I know this takes up a lot of time, and I know you have very also demanding jobs, so your service to the county is much appreciated. And the fact that you came here this morning and provided a very thorough presentation of all of these items is terrific, so thank you. And then Jesse and Andy, thank you so much, and everyone else at the county team for what you do. I'm very proud to hear about the phenomenal work we're hearing from outside stakeholders, which is a testament to how great we are here at the county. But I think these items are just absolutely terrific. And the way you described how in your 40 years you haven't seen anything like this, I'm very proud as a member of this board to see that happen. I have seen how much work has had to be put into all of this. I know it's not easy. I know people are not always in agreement every single day of the process, but the fact that people are able to work together and establish this is really phenomenal. And to see that many of these ideas are already implemented is terrific. So once again, thank you so much for this. Thank you for taking the time to inform the board about all of this, and I wish you luck, but we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Supervisor Hickman.
First of all, Jack, thank you for putting this up in front of us today, because, we get things started, and sometimes some of these things take multiple years, to get through, but we need to call out what everybody's doing for this county in different ways. So thank you, guys. I'm hoping that Michael and Josh, you guys go back to your companies and your board members that helped you with this, and just thank your companies for devoting the time, your time, to this. It'll pay off. Again, 10 years ago, when I took office, our people were viewed as regulators with a badge. And we can totally see how things have changed now, that we are hopefully helpers with business cards and try to keep speeding things through. Keeping you guys on task, it's very important for public safety. You guys get these projects done, and 10 years later, did the infrastructure work out? I just talked about that water, the flooding water test, and going, oh no, wow, it's gotten to this level, so, but we're saving water, so thank you guys. Again, please tell your companies, thank you for devoting the time, your time to do this, and the passion you both exhibited today in front of our board about you guys loving to dig deep in the details and working with our staff and Andy to get to the point where 3 or 4 years from now, this county's in a much better place than what it was. So thank you guys. And thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Clint. Yeah, Supervisor Gates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just echo everyone's comments again. Thanks to all three of you, and thanks to the entire group that was involved in this. I know you guys are busy. You have other things you could be doing, but taking the time to work on this, not being someone who's throwing rocks from the side, but instead someone who's trying to make the process better. Unfortunately, in our country right now, we have a lot of people who love to throw rocks. And so I got to tell you, this is really inspiring, right? To see this. I salute Clint and the board who really did start this approach, a more pro-business approach, which has now been followed by, I think, this board and by staff as well. But it takes both sides working together. And yeah, if you want to tell people out in the community, hey, you know what, government can work, the county government in particular can work, we would appreciate that too. So thanks so much.
Yeah, and my thanks as well. I'm so proud that Maricopa County is in fact taking a lead on this, because this is such a critical area for us to improve. And I'm very impressed with the progress you've made up to this point. Jesse, I'm assuming this committee will go on.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Manager Pokorski, yes, Mr. Chairman, we're going to continue to work through and follow up on all these items as they get completed. We have, as part of one of the recommendations, was to have a quarterly update on standards and specifications. We're going to use that venue to provide those updates to the industry partners, our contractors, developers, and Home Builders Association, for example. And we're going to use that venue to follow up on the progress of these items. We've made tremendous progress to date, but we're not done. And the whole culture that we have is continuous improvement. So once we get done with this, we're going to look at how we can continue to improve our processes and procedures. It's a never-ending culture of improvement that we have here at the county and at McDOT. So yes, this will continue.
Okay, well, thank you again. And what we're looking for is a motion to consider the recommendations, accept the report, whole or in part, as submitted by the Ad Hoc Task Force Committee, and to provide guidance and directions to staff.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you again, all of
guys.
you. Okay, our next item number 3, is recommendations from the Ad Hoc Task Force for the Flood Control District of Maricopa County on process improvements. Now that we've talked about flooding our streets.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Scott Vogel. I'm the interim director of the Flood Control District. We're here to present the recommendations from the task force, ad hoc task force for the Flood Control District. In this task force, there were 15 stakeholders that came together for 12 meetings between September of last year and February. These were representing industry associations, developers, engineers, attorneys, and utility companies. So at the kickoff meeting, we asked these stakeholders for input on feedback on flood control's permitting and standards, and really anything else that they had issues or concerns at flood control. Based on what we heard, there were 2 subcommittees formed: the Sand and Gravel Floodplain Use Permitting Committee and the Community Floodplain Use Permitting Committee. So of course, the Flood Control District performs floodplain management for 14 of the communities, 14 of the cities and towns within Maricopa County. Between these 2 subcommittees, there were 18 recommendations that came out of it. 9 of those recommendations have been implemented, and most of the remainder will be implemented with Permit Center when it comes live. I'd like to say thank you to all the stakeholders who participated, but especially the 2 subcommittee chairs who are with me here today, Michael Hunt from Vulcan Materials and Jack Moody from Westwood Professional Services. Also, thank you to Director Galvin, who attended our kickoff meeting. We appreciate that. And thank you also to all the Flood Control District staff for their support. And again, Andy Linton was our facilitator. He did a great job of keeping the process moving. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Michael for presentation on the Sand and Gravel Floodplain Use Permitting recommendations.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, thank you for meeting with me today. My name is Michael Hunt. I'm the project. Sorry about that. Start over. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity for me to present today. My name is Michael Hunt. I'm a project engineer for Vulcan Materials Company. I served as the chair for the Sand and Gravel Floodplain Use Permit Subcommittee. Our group explored opportunities to improve communication and permit processes for sand and gravel stakeholders. We developed 9 recommendations for the board's consideration. First, we developed the 2 recommendations to improve the online permitting process to allow all customers to access review comments versus the county's new online permit system, the Permit Center, which is scheduled to go live in June of this year. This feature will streamline the permit process because all comment reviews will come online. Previously, you had to wait for a formal letter response. It would come either by mail or email. Everything is on live on system, so you can see exactly when it's processed. Another benefit of this is going to have not only one person getting the comments, but also multiple people. In most cases, sand and gravel companies hire consultants to do the technical reviews, the permits, the reports, the maps, but also the companies themselves have somebody environmental permitting or someone like myself, a project engineer, and multiple people are allowed to see those comments when they happen. People are very busy. They get multiple communication methods, and having more people to have access to when comments are generated is great because that way somebody who sees it says, okay, we want to keep this process going and moving along. Next, we have a set of recommendations to improve communication with customers regarding permit status of permit reviews. The Permit Center will have the ability to see where a floodplain use permit is along in the permitting cycle, whether it's still being administrative reviewed or it's under technical reviews or where it is exactly. Are comments been received before you would submit a permit and you have no idea where it is in the process. Now you can go right online and see exactly where it is along that process. So if someone asks, or if you're interested to know, you know where something is. It also has the reviewer's contact information who's actually reviewing the permits. So if there's issues that come up, you know exactly who to talk to and get your issues resolved as quickly as possible. And also there's a recommendation for goals to be for the amount of review times posted online as well. So you know something's going to be looked at for, say, 20 days or 30 days, and you have a general idea how long it's going to take when you submit something and when it's going to get approved. Lastly, we developed recommendations to improve application review times. These recommendations encourage dialogue between parties with consultants, mining companies, and reviewers. And first start is if there is a third set of review comments, to offer a meeting to have in place. In technical issues as well as life, sometimes people will see the same issue completely differently. And if you have a series of third review comments, generally over the same thing, either the consultant and the reviewer are not looking at things exactly the same way. It allows a meeting to come along and say, these are our concerns, these are our concerns. Oh, okay, then we can develop and deal with that rather than keep sending comments and responses back and forth and not getting anywhere. Also, we require administrative reviewers to present at pre-application meetings. The pre-application meetings are important because in a permit process, sand and gravel mines are generally near rivers. But depending on where you are in a river, whether you're close to a channel or not, conditions are different. It allows the reviewers and the consultants to know these are the concerns that the reviewers have, and the consultant can tailor their design around what the concerns are rather than just make a blanket permit process and starting and away we go. It also directs reviewers to immediately reach out to customers if minor issues on a permit application are missed, like missing signatures, missing attachments, missing payment. Rather than wait for a letter response to come in, they can reach out right away because people are human and sometimes they forget things. And those issues can be taken as quickly as possible. And also a recommendation is if things are very busy for permit applications, outside consultants can be used by Maricopa County Flood Control. These also are contracted consultants that work for Maricopa County Planning and Development Department, can be utilized for the review process if things are really busy. In closing, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, thank you for convening a task force and considering our recommendations. Next, Jack Moody will present the recommendations from the Community Floodplain Use Permit Subcommittee.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board on this section?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Jack Moody. I'm with Westwood Professional Services. I'm served as the chair of the Community Floodplain Use Permit Subcommittee. I'd like to thank the board for directing and forming this ad hoc stakeholders task force. I've been an engineering consultant working with the Flood Control District of Maricopa County for the last 40 years, not only representing applicants, developers, but also working directly for the Flood Control District on projects. And I do want to say that over the years, I've found that the Flood Control District of Maricopa County is an exemplary institution with many, many fine and qualified individuals. So you should be proud of that group. Thank you for the opportunity to present the work from the Community Floodplain Use Permit Subcommittee. The group explored opportunities to improve communication and streamline review processes for the community floodplain stakeholders. We've developed 9 recommendations for the board's consideration, and I'd like to also point out that many of these recommendations have already begun to be implemented, and as an engineer working with them, I've noticed, I've seen the results already, and this is very quick, and so thank you, Scott, for that. The first issue I want to talk about is we looked at simplifying the floodplain use permit process for routine, very low-risk activities. An example of these activities might be construction that has no surface disruption. For example, directional boring. Another example might be an activity that has temporary surface disruption. For example, utility trenching with proper backfill and recompaction and put it back to the original contours of what was done prior to the construction. And then third example is minor grading impacts, minor impacts that such as landscaping, sidewalks, paving, or signposts, things that don't disturb or disrupt the ultimate ground level compared to what it was prior to the construction. These activities do not warrant the same level of complex review as activities that would have the potential for changing the floodplain. And so our recommendation is for the district to create a substantive policy to establish an abbreviated time frame for review and approval of these low-risk activities. We're also recommending that if in the future these abbreviated time frames cannot be met, then possibly considering a regulatory change by initiating the creation of a new general permit category for these low-risk activities. The second issue we discussed is the purpose of the second issue is recommending to improve coordination between the cities in cross-jurisdictional projects. These recommendations are centered on better communication between the district, the applicant, and the municipal partners. The first recommendation is to create an option for the customer to add a municipal contract directly within Permit Center. The next one is allowing municipal contacts to receive these notifications and also review information, to be able to access the review information that is being produced within Permit Center. Thirdly is in inviting these municipal stakeholders to the pre-application meetings for cross-jurisdictional coordination as necessary. And finally, provide the municipalities with an overview of the Permit Center and the district process.
Supervisor Gates.
Mr. Chair, thank you. This was great. I was going to ask you if you had done this, and then that was the next slide. So this is fabulous. Did you actually have representatives of the municipalities involved in this discussion, or was this more just like, we want you to do this?
There were a couple of representatives from municipalities in these meetings. Several of them were there in person, and then one or two more were also online and were invited and attended these meetings, so yes.
I just think this is fantastic. Really happy to see this, and I really think it's going to supercharge your efforts to have the municipalities tied in with this permit center.
I think it's going to be an excellent process, also working with a lot of municipalities that use the flood control district as their floodplain administrator. It will really simplify that process. Thank you. Issue number 3, we addressed when the river mechanics review should be required. River mechanics involves the potential for erosion and sedimentation to occur and create additional hazards within the floodplain. Outlining specific criteria for river mechanics review will help ensure the resources of that group are available for the projects that really need their involvement. The first recommendation is river mechanics would not typically be needed for processes to review, say, a letter of map revision that is based on a conditional letter of map revision that was previously approved by the district, and obviously previously gone through river mechanics. However, if the construction deviated from the original conditional letter, then of course it would need to go back to river mechanics to see if the changes made any differences. Next item is to identify a level of risk to adjacent properties and also to structures from the projects that's being proposed, and simplify the process and potentially either simplifying the process within river mechanics or even bypassing river mechanics altogether in these very low or even no risk situations. So in other words, what we're doing there is looking at the level of risk that the construction poses and what it's proposing that risk upon, and determining the level of review based on that level of risk. The fourth issue is our committee also emphasized the benefit of a pre-application meeting. We've made 2 recommendations. Thank you. Too much. We've made 2 recommendations that make the pre-application more accessible to our customers. Advertise the pre-application meeting within the district's website, or the availability of a pre-application meeting, so that a customer could get in there and request that pre-application meeting right off the bat, right away. And then secondly, provide the ability for a customer to apply for a pre-application meeting even prior to making his permit application or prior to initiating a record. And the reason that's important is sometimes you'll have I'll use a developer as an example, who has a floodplain condition, and he's trying to figure out what's the best option to go through that. And sometimes we want to reach out to the experts, people are going to be reviewing it, and say, before they choose an option and go down, only find out that the other option may have been the better option. And you have the ability to have a pre-application meeting prior to any other records formation. And I've actually dealt with that many times in my career and do think that that would be a very excellent addition to this. With that, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the Community Floodplain Use Permit Subcommittee and I would like to thank you for convening this task force and for the considerations of these recommendations. Thank you. With that, I'll turn it back over to Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
And that is it.
Okay. Well, and you know, I'm just so impressed with the committees that have been put together on this, and I especially want to thank our Assistant County Manager again for putting this together. I believe we have a member of our audience that would like to speak with us before we consider this item. Steve Trussell.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Steve Trussell with the Arizona Rock Products Association. I just wanted to collectively say thank you on behalf of our membership. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors, certainly our County Manager, Jen Pekorski, who understands these issues backwards and forwards. Andy Linton, what a great man. He has done, and I'm up here on behalf of this task force, but we were certainly invited to the McDOT task force as well, and really appreciate always having a seat at the table. I want to thank Scott and his team, who did an excellent job of listening to concerns, offering up some great solutions. And as you heard, a lot of these are already being implemented or are underway. We're really excited about the portal that will be online as soon as June. So that's exciting news for our members. And I want to thank our chairman, Mr. Hunt. We had Mr. Mears at the table and certainly Greg Monger. And so anyway, we want to thank all of them. We appreciate the opportunity to give input for this invaluable partnership. We feel this effort will go a long way in continuing to improve floodplain use permitting efficiencies and outcomes. And I just want to say on behalf of our association, thank you for both efforts. I think they're going to go a long way in helping with not only our permitting efficiencies, but it's going to be a benefit to the community for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. And I'll just mention what an interesting time for the committee to be looking at these things, because we certainly have had some challenging years with flood control recently. And so it's really important that we look at this process and streamline this process. Any questions, comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just want to thank Mr. Trussell for taking the time out of his busy schedule to come down here today with his words. The Rock Products Association is a great association and such an integral part of our state and our state economy. And the work that he does and his members are doing are just so vitally important. People don't even realize it every single day, but they rely on everything that the Rock Products Association does for us. So thank you for coming down. A couple years ago, I also want to highlight someone else. A couple years ago, Spencer Camps of the Home Builders Association came with us with some of his members to meet with Jen Pekorski and myself. And I think that really started and kicked off why we have these two committees here today. And Director Vogel, thank you so much. The Flood Control Agency is a jewel in Maricopa County, one of the most unique and one of the most special, but also one of the most vitally important agencies that we have. So congratulations to you and your team. And Andy, I'm just going to pile on. You keep getting all these kudos today, but thank you so much. It's so great to hear your name being invoked over and over and over again, but it's a testament to your hard work, your professionalism, how you treat the craft, and how you treat all of these members. And to these two chairmen here before me, thank you so much as well. I also know you have very busy schedules, and you're taking your time out, as I said earlier, to serve Maricopa County. That's exactly what you're doing. And it's vitally important that the county and stakeholders work together to make everything better. And the words we heard today are streamline, efficiency, improvement, standards. Those are all the things that we should be working towards. And all 5 members of this board either work or have worked in the private sector. So we get it. We understand how it can be frustrating if government is not being responsive or not being exactly working in tune to what the needs are. So it is important to have these committees to be meeting together, to be checking in, to have these recommendations. It's so wonderful to see that these recommendations are already being implemented. I hear that, and someone said that there's already being improvements are already being seen. So I want to thank all of you. And Jen and Darcy, thank you so much for being such great leadership here at the county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Hickman.
Yeah, I would just like to, as I did before with Jack and Michael, again, thank you. And please thank your businesses for supporting your actions with these stakeholder groups. We just did not allow the moratorium on rules and regulations to sunset. We extended it again. And it's absolutely, that moratorium is absolutely dependent on stakeholders. I think about what we have to go through on Wednesday formal board meetings with citizens that don't stare into these types of meetings and come and throw rocks, literally, almost. You know, they would if they could, I bet. But it's vital that we have citizen participation in the fields that they are very knowledgeable about. Mr. Trussell, I've been at the legislature twice, I think, in my period trying to stop laws where somebody's good idea at the legislature or bad idea is they're trying to make a law. You know, this is what we have at our tool in our tool chest, stakeholders that participate in regulations and agencies that listen to our stakeholders and try to make ourselves better. We can't. I just keep thinking that the sand and gravel, you know, group is a big portion of development and growth of Maricopa County. And I'm glad that you guys have a chance to participate with our group and to educate us a little bit. It truly is iron sharpening iron with this group. And again, thank you. And please reach out to your committee members. And they spent time with this. So please make sure that this board appreciates their time spent with our group to refine the process. There's a lot more to go. But again, now we're business card guys and not badge carrying guys to this community. So I appreciate your work. And thank you, Scott and Andy.
Thank you.
And Jen.
Thank you, Clint. The board will now consider item number 3.
Mr. Chairman, in the name of furthering economic development, I make a motion to approve item number 3.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You guys. Chairman, thank you.
Yeah, very, very much appreciate all of you. Thank you. We will now, I will now consider a motion to go into executive session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We're now in exec session.
You'll share it, brother. You're on chair.